So today is a fun and special episode. We'll be giving a gameplay overview and review of 5 tribes, thieves, and
Artisans
of Naqala. So it's a huge episode, so stick with us. So hi everyone, I'm Mandi, the board gaming pinup girl.
I'm Tracy, the gaming maven.
And I'm Stephane, the games teacher.
Want to see what we think of this game? Well, timestamps are below. Just click on it.
Leave us a comment, let us know how we're doing, and while you're there, subscribe to our channel so that you get notified when we post new content.
So we have got, here we go again, 5 tribes, Thieves of Naqala, and
Artisans of Naqala.
Awesome, all set up and ready to go, so let's get to it. The objective of 5 tribes is, well, to have the most coins. There's a little bit more to it than that. You've got camels, you've got palm trees, you've got gins, you've got all sorts of stuff. Basically a variety of ways to get the most coins.
So now we're going to go over the components for 5 tribes. We have the base game plus the 2 expansions. So as you can see, there's a lot here. We're going to go through it all. So first thing is there's some really fun meeples in this. We've first got some cool palm trees, some palaces. We also have our camel meeples in some funky colors here. And we have our player token. There's also a bunch of different meeples in the 5 colors to represent the 5 tribes. It's a 4-player game. There are 5 tribes. It's a sticking point, but that's how it goes. We also add another tribe in there too with the expansion. We also have our gold coins, which actually represent some of our victory points. We also have our bid order marker, and we also turn order track, and we also have our turn order track. So bid order, turn order track. Then we have our wonderful tiles in the different types. They all have different actions on them. We also have our resource cards, our really cool djinn. There's a bunch of funky djinn that do some really cool things. Our little handy dandy bag to put all of our meeples in to pull them out randomly. With the expansion to Artisans, we have some cool purple meeples, and there they represent the Artisan tribe. We also add some funky tiles, including a chasm or chasm, take your pick. We have some tents, which act similar to the camels with a bit of twist. And our funky mountains, and these really add a lot of challenge to the game. You're not able to pass through the mountains. However, the assassins are, so you have to be careful. These are our artisan tokens, which you can get when you pick up Artisans. Our new score pad with all the extra stuff. The Thieves of Naqala is just a very small little expansion. Just add some really cool thief cards. What these do, similar to djinn in how you purchase them, but these are the mean cards. These are the ones that if you really want to be cutthroat and competitive with your fellow players, these are the ones you want to add to your game. So one thing of note here too is we have these really cool cheat sheets. Now they're a little bit big, so they're a bit of a table hog, but they are very handy for giving you all the things you need to know about the game. This is for the base game. And Artisans, because it does have enough components to warrant it, it adds an Artisan's cheat sheet. So you kind of got the details on both sides of what some of the extra stuff does and how the tiles work. So now we're going to show you the setup. It's already all ready to go, but what we're going to do is I'm going to explain how we did it all. So first thing you're going to do is we're going to set up the board. The board is going to start with a 4x4 grid. We're going to include the artisan tiles as well as 10 of the random base tiles. Shuffle them all together, lay them out in a 4x4 grid, and then take the remaining tiles and put them along the outer edge so you have a 6x6 grid to finish. Then you're going to put all the meeples in a bag, draw, and put 3 out on each tile minus the chasm. The chasm doesn't put anything on it. And then we're going to put these little mountains. It's hard to see on the camera, but there are little spots to put these little mountains on because these you can't pass over, so you want to make sure you have those in the right spots. Then you're going to shuffle the resource cards and lay them out with 9 face up and the rest in a draw pile. We're going to bring the djinn out, we're going to shuffle them, and we're going to put 3 out face up, the rest face down. The Artisans are the thieves are going to be similar. You're going to put a draw pile and you're going to put 1 face up. After that, we place our bid order marker and our turn order marker out. We're going to randomly place our player markers on the bid order marker before we can go. And then after that, everything else gets put to the side. You have your coins and all your other types of meeples as well as your camels near you just to the next to the board. So the gameplay for this game is actually really simple. The mechanics are not hard. However, these mountains, when we add the expansion, make it a little bit more challenging, as does this chasm, which we cannot pass over. So what you're going to do is you're simply going to take all 3 meeples on one single tile, and you're going to move and dropping 1 meeple on each tile as you go along. The tricky part is you have to finish on a tile with the same color as the meeple you're dropping on that one. So if we're going to be going this way, we're going to drop 1, 2, 3. That gives us 3 green meeples, which is kind of nice. Get to do some merchant action with those guys. So we're going to take the merchant action with the meeples. This would allow me to buy resource cards. And then we will draw these into the bag. Put them back into the bag. Then you're going to take the action of the actual tile itself. Now in this case, the tile is buying a genie. If I trade in 2 white meeples or a white meeple and a fakir, then I would buy a djinn. I do not have those, so I wouldn't get to take that action at the moment. Now I would look to see, is the tile empty? Well, it isn't empty, so I can't control that tile. If it was completely empty by my picking up of the meeples, then I would get to put my cute little camel right in that little spot. But, as I said, you can't quite at the moment. So this game is fairly simple, but we have a couple things we have to go through before we can actually start taking our actions. First, we have to bid on turn order. In the order from 1 to 4, we get to bid on when we want to take our turn, paying the coin based on where we're trying to place. If you place here, you obviously don't have to pay anything. However, if I was to place there and someone else also didn't want to pay anything, they would bump me. So I would actually go even basically last at this point. Then if someone wants to pay a coin, I would say pay one of my coins, which you have face down in front of you, and you would get to take the first spot. If this player wanted to take the 3 spot, because he definitely has a move that he wants to do, he would pay 3 and they would go first. So in this turn order, going from the person who paid the most to the person who paid the least, you'll get to take your turn in that order. Now what you'll do is you'll pick one of the tiles and you'll take all of the meeples that are existing on that tile. So if we're taking the ones from this tile, we're going to have to move them, dropping 1 as we go along. The tricky thing is we have to drop our last meeple on a tile that has matching colored meeples. I can't put this green here if there were no green here. So that's the tricky part. Then you have to pick up all of the meeples of the same color. So this one here allows me to take the merchant action. So I have 3 merchants, which allows me to purchase from the market cards. Then you'll place these back in the bag. The tile also allows you to take an action. So in this case, I would get to possibly buy a djinn. If I had 1 white meeple collected from earlier and another white meeple, or a fakir card, which is the snake charmer here, I would get to buy one of these 3 face-up djinn. I don't have those, so I can't do that at the moment. The other thing you have to remember is you're trying to see if the tile is empty. Right now it isn't, but if it was empty, I would get to take control of this tile, giving me points at the end of the game by putting my little camel on that little corner there. But it's not empty, so I don't get to control it just yet. What we have to be aware of when we're moving on this particular tile is if I wanted to move from here to there, I can't go straight through because of this mountain here. I have to go around, so that is tricky. And this chasm, which is included in the Artisans expansion, you can't go on it at all. You would fall in, as you can see, quite deep. So you have to actually go around that as well. After that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to refill anything that was used. If we did take market card actions, we would push these to the left. We would fill in from here so that the stuff you see gets closer and easier to afford. We fill in so we always have 9 cards. If any djinn were bought, we would also refill those by turning more face up. If the thief was purchased, we would do the same thing. In this case, we would only have 1. Bid order is actually determined based on the turnover of the previous round. So this is how you would get to bid, not necessarily how you get to play in the second round. For example, the black player may actually decide that they don't want to pay anything. So in the second round, they'll actually go there. So that is how the turn order would change. With the artisans, there is one other thing. So we have these wonderful, beautiful little purple meeples, my favorite color. So if we drop these here, the purple one, you take these artisans and it allows you to take some of these wonderful tiles. Some have endgame score and some have one-time actions that you can take. So you can get these guys, which can give you some extra secret points for the end of the game. So some additional gameplay, we have our djinn. If you purchase a djinn, you can on your turn take an action. Now in this case, this one is actually end game scoring. So it will give you bonuses for end game, but in itself is also worth victory points. So collecting them is good. This one, for example, will give you 4 points for each white elder meeple you have instead of just 2. The thief cards are a little bit different. They will give you victory points at the end of the game if you don't use them. However, they do have a one-time only action because it's pretty mean, so you only want it to happen once. In this case, this one, you would take a yellow vizier from each player and you would keep one of them, the rest getting tossed aside. So, the game ends when there are no more legal moves on the board. So you can't take a meeple and move it spaces to match another meeple of the same color. Once that doesn't happen, the game will end, or the game will end when all of the camels and tents of one player have been placed out on the board. Once that happens, the game will end then as well. Then we will take our handy dandy score pad, telling us all the different types of items we will want to score. First, we're going to start with our coins. So our coins are hidden. You're going to have them face down. So you're going to turn them all over and you're going to simply calculate the total. The total amount is what you write down on the score pad. The yellow viziers, however, they are worth 1 point each. So in case this would be 2, plus you will get majority points. So if you have majority over each person, you'll get 10 points per person that you have majority over. So if you have more than the 3 other people you're playing against, you will get 30 points. The artisans are fun too. If you haven't used them to collect the artisan tiles, then you're going to get points. If you have the majority of them, they're worth 3 points each. And if you have less than majority, you'll get 2 points for each of them. The viziers are, again, worth 2 points each, so very similar to the artisans. You're simply just getting points per vizier you have. So you'll get 2 points per those guys. The jinn are worth their printed value in the top right-hand corner. So some are more valuable than others, so collecting these can be very lucrative. Some of these tiles have palaces and palm trees. So throughout the game, if you play on there will be some palaces. And if you have your camel on a place with one of the palaces, then you will get 5 points for those. The palm trees give you 3 points each. And that's just not 1. If you have 2, you would get more points. The camels themselves will give you points based on the actual tile. So each tile, as you can see, you can actually have quite a difference. Some are only worth 5, but some are worth 15 whopping points. So getting those guys is very handy. Then you have your artisan tiles. So these are the tiles that you collect through the purple meeples. In the game, some are just simply one-time uses, but a lot of them give you endgame points. So you can actually score those as well. And those are hidden like your coins till the end of the game. Lastly, you're going to score for your market cards. So minus the fakirs, you're going to score for the different types of resources you have. So in this case, I have 3 different types of resources. So it's a set collection of different types, and you will score points based on, you will score 7 points for 3 different. Now, if I had 2 cloth, for example, I would score for this one, and I would score singly for the second cloth. It doesn't get counted in this set. The person with the most points at the end of the game wins.
So now we're ready to give our review of 5 tribes and the expansions, Thieves and Artisans of Naqala. What did you guys think?
Well, the base game is great. Great beginner game. Love what Artisans brought to it. Not so keen on Thieves, and we'll kind of explain why later. But, so, half and half.
I echo Tracy's sentiment on this. Really liked Artisans, really loved the base game. I could do without Thieves.
So, I agree to a certain point, but I could see how certain people would really enjoy
Absolutely.
Thieves. So, I'm not as far on the spectrum of not liking it as they are, but we're going to talk a bit more about, why we think that. So, first things first, let's talk about the art and theme of the game.
Well, the art in the game is very, you kind of feel like you're in the deserty areas. It's really quite nice, very consistent across the board. And I do love how they kind of made the expansions really fit the theme. Like, they really kept the artwork and the feel of it together, so it feels like one cohesive unit when you're playing it, which is nice.
Yeah, I like the color schemes as well. It works very well. I like the choice of colors for the meeples. All in all, really good production quality.
Yeah, I agree. I echo the same sentiment as they do. And I like the fact that all the expansions fit in. I mean, different type of theme for each one, but they all fit in artistically well with the base game. So I thought overall that was well done.
Although none of them add a 5th player. We'll just get that straight.
Can I tell you when I bought it? I was all excited. Yeah, we can play 5 tribes with 5 players.
Nope.
No. So I don't know where I heard that, but anyway,
And
you can't.
I expect they will never release a 5 or 6 player expansion for 5 tribes because that's the running gag now, right?
I know, right? You can't. You just can't. Keep everyone on their toes. So now let's talk about game components.
The components are fantastic. It's a Days of Wonder game originally. The company made it. So solid tiles. The meeples are great. The colors are vibrant. Everything, it sits well. Nothing
Right.
like when you pull it out 20 times, it still doesn't look like it's been used. So it's fantastic for that. I like all the meeples. You got palm trees and palaces and camel meeples. So
You know, I really enjoy the quality of the components in this game. There's one thing, though, that I'm really not a fan of in any game. It's the really small cards. Like the market cards or resource cards, whatever they're called. I believe they're resource cards.
Yeah, resource cards, you're correct.
I don't like that size of card. I wish the cards were just, a little bit bigger. Other than that, great component quality, thick cardboard, good card stock. Lots of wooden tokens to play with, special wooden tokens that you don't see in any other game. So really, really like that about the game.
Yeah, so again, exactly what you guys said. Overall, really good quality. I have heard, I don't even know if this is true, that they're coming out with a big box so that it's all going to be together in one box. Now, I'd be curious to see if that happens. I know when I bought my game back in the day, it was like $40. So now I think it's upwards of 70. So we'll see how it goes with the big box. Maybe it'll be like a slight discount. Who knows? So if you guys are waiting to buy it, maybe you can get it as a whole package. Game mechanics.
So the base game is really nice. I consider this one of the games that you use kind of as an intro game, like a gateway game. That's what I like it as. So it's very easy. I love the modular board. It changes every time. The way you pull the meeples out changes every time. It's great that way. Artisans particularly, I found, really added a lot. Like those mountains and the chasm, you can't move through the mountains and you can't go over that tile, so it really changes how you have to move. So it adds complexity to a very simple game. So it's great for experienced players who still like this game and go, oh, it's kind of simple, so can we make this? Can we bump it up a bit? I found that really added a lot. So
It adds 20% more game board, too.
Yeah, well, you get the new tiles.
36 tiles. Haha. I really enjoyed the new gameplay, especially in Artisans. For me, Thieves, really, it'll appeal to those people who like being cutthroat and being very aggressive and mean in their games. That's not me. I'm not an aggressive or mean player. So it didn't appeal to me as much. I can understand where the appeal would be for those players, though.
Right.
And it's a fairly small expansion that it only has like 6 or 7 cards. 6 cards plus 6
cards. Yeah.
1 Djinn card plus 6 Thief cards. So there's not a lot of extra components there. And the gameplay, I don't think with Thieves really unbalanced anything. So that's good. But it allowed for that aggressive play, which I just never take that road. So.
Yeah, and I found that when we had a chance to use it, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like, it was just a forgotten piece because we're just not that type of player. But yeah, I could see someone who maybe wants to really stick it to somebody may enjoy that aspect. I mean, you're gonna get points, right, at the end of the game if you just keep it.
Exactly.
So it's fine, but like it's not necessary. But the type of players who like maybe a more aggressive gameplay will probably enjoy it. That's why I kind of say I don't completely dislike that aspect. For a certain type of player, it will work. I definitely thought Artisans was the shining star out of the two because it added some other elements that kind of integrated really well with the game. Like you were talking about the mountains, it kind of just provided some blocks, but then you got those little tokens because of the purple meeple. So you know what I mean? It was something that was added but in the game already. So
and hey, purple meeples.
I know, right? So that was like, I'm all over it. So
the one thing I did like though about Thieves, and again, the reason I don't like it so much is unless it's really meant to be a cutthroat game, I think they added this mostly because they wanted, again, get experienced players, people who are maybe a little more competitive, a little bit more into, making it a harder game. They're trying to add something for those people instead of it just being a beginner game.
Right.
What I do like about it is that even though they're super powerful cards, you can only use them once, and you can only use them when you trigger them with the color of picking up that meeple. So it's not like you can just play it whenever.
Randomly.
You have to play it a very specific way at a very specific time. And only once. So they balanced out the power and then the cutthroatness of the cards by doing that, which I did like how they did that. It's just the actual mechanic itself I'm not so keen on.
Right, exactly. So, similar games. I know, I was sitting here, I'm like,
I mean,
I would know some similar games to Five Tribes, and it's
the ancient game, obviously Mancala, which was where it gets its movement to pick up a bunch of objects and drop them on consecutive spaces. It shares not much else with Mancala, but that's where it gets its roots, I guess.
But I can't think of any other games that I own where you do something like that.
you pick up and drop off pieces.
It's actually kind of a different game
It is.
on its own.
Yeah.
So overall opinions, I enjoy Five Tribes. Like from day one, I've killed that game, played it to death. The expansions, I really enjoyed Artisans. The Thieves is not for me, but I can see how it can appeal to other people. This game can be difficult for some new players because it can lead to the AP a little bit because people start overthinking their moves, so it can really extend a game when it really shouldn't take that long. But overall, great game. Loved it, loved it, loved it.
Yeah, Five Tribes in and itself, fantastic. Absolutely loved how Artisans added. Thieves didn't break the game. It just isn't my type of thing. So it definitely adds to a game if you're looking for that kind of mechanic. So I would recommend it if you like that stuff.
And I agree with everything they just said.
Easy peasy, right?
And purple meeples.
Purple meatballs.
So that's it for us today. I think it's a 2 thumbs away up the board. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.